John, it's so great to see you. It's always wonderful when we feature one of our own. And you, as the principal trumpet of the Stockton Symphony, are about to be in the sunlight in the solo role, and it's great to have you with us.
Thanks, Peter. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. I know that you play with many different orchestras. Why don't we start off by giving us a little list of all the groups you play with in this area?
Oh gosh. I'm also a principal trumpet in the Marin Symphony, the Fresno Philharmonic, the San Francisco Chamber Orchestra, third trumpet in the Oakland Symphony, and second trumpet in Opera San Jose.
Wow. Yeah, you're really up and about. And so we're so lucky that we get at least a slice of your schedule.
Oh, I love playing in Stockton.
Yeah. And when you have all these principal roles or even a section role, it's a lot different when you're all of a sudden up in front in the solo role. What's it like making that transition?
It's a thrill to be in front. We're definitely usually kind of in the back, feel very comfortable back there. And every once in a while when I can step in front, it's just a thrill. I love doing it.
So let's rewind a little bit to get some background. What first got you interested, even in music or specifically in playing the trumpet?
My family wasn't particularly musical, and in fourth grade, we had a demo day where different professionals came in and showed off the different instruments. And I remember the guy who came in for trumpet, and I also remember the guy who came in for saxophone.
Uh-huh.
And to be 100% honest, I loved the saxophone right when I heard it, but there were only so many saxophones that our band could have. And so my dad and I decided to go and get a trumpet at the local store, and I just really liked it. I'm actually very glad that I chose trumpet instead of saxophone.
I remember when I was a kid and my parents were trying to get me interested in playing an orchestral instrument. Even before I heard the sound of the trumpet, they had a book of orchestral instruments. And just when I saw that picture of the trumpet, it just looked so shiny. It was kind of like a toss up between the trumpet or the violin for me. And I finally went with the violin, but I was fascinated by the trumpet just by the looks of it.
Yeah, it is powerful and shiny and fun to play.
Yeah. And so let's talk a little bit specifically about the Haydn Trumpet Concerto.
Yeah, it's a really interesting story. So Haydn was working at the Esterhazy Palace. They had employed an entire orchestra to live there at their palace outside of town. The first trumpet of that orchestra was a really great trumpet player, but he was also kind of a tinkerer. At the time, up until then, trumpets could only play the overtone series. They could play arpeggios, but there was a lot of notes that they couldn't play. And so no trumpet had ever been able to play chromatically. And so this trumpet player, his name was Anton Weidinger, invented this thing that's called a keyed bugle. And it looks like the bugle that you're used to seeing, but it's covered in saxophone kind of keys. And so this guy went up to Haydn and said, "Hey, could you write me a concerto that'll show this off?"
Right.
And he did, and it became the Haydn Trumpet Concerto. And then Anton took it all over Europe, touring it and showing it to everyone, and everyone was really amazed. And it
Yeah.
sort of opened up a whole new world of possibilities for composers.
And so fast forwarding many, many decades, even centuries since that piece was written for that instrument that almost nobody plays anymore, has anybody recreated that instrument and tried to play the Haydn on that instrument?
Yes, nowadays they do have replicas of that instrument, and you can on YouTube find recordings of people playing the Haydn.
It's really interesting because with different soloists and different instruments, there are certain pieces that were written, even if they're centuries old, still remain kind of like the test of virtuosity. How does the Haydn Trumpet Concerto stack up in terms of difficulty factor in your universe?
It's still hard. It's still very flashy, and it definitely goes really high. It definitely has really fast flourishes and arpeggios and, gets all over the horn. I like it because it also allows the trumpet to play really soft and expressively, which is something that before that trumpets were sort of like an outdoor thing. They were like they would play fanfares, but they weren't sort of like a melodic instrument. So the second movement is a sort of like a lullaby. It's really beautiful. I try to be as tender as I can. And even through the first movement, play with that classical grace and beauty the way a flute or an oboe would.
It's actually true when you've decided to become a trumpet player that you will have many different instruments that play in many different keys. Why don't you tell us what your collection is like?
Oh gosh, sure. I'm going to be playing a special instrument for this one. It's a gold-plated E-flat trumpet. Our normal orchestral horn is a C trumpet. When you first start playing trumpet, you always start on a B-flat instrument. The E-flat is higher, but it makes it a little bit more secure to play in the really, really high range. Actually, I can show you. I've got it right here. It's a really pretty horn.
That's your E flat that you're going to be doing the Haydn with?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. It really is golden. Wow.
Yep.
Cool. Well, it's going to be such a pleasure having you be the featured star in this role.
Thanks, Peter. Yeah, I'm thrilled. I can't wait to do it.
Okay. We'll see you soon.
Thanks.